I'm going to speak about COPE today, and I think that we need to pause and reflect, and certainly Liz articulated a little bit of this, but I think it's important for us to understand the enormous amount of great work that has been done in this organization in 20 years. It's fairly phenomenal that we have 11,000 members in 103 countries, from Algeria to Zimbabwe. And if you think about that, and you think about this organization starting with 3 people in the UK and moving to an 11,000 member base, which is growing every month, we're international and diverse, and we involve all research and scholarly work. So I want to talk about our different teams that we have and our different subcommittees. And the first would be membership. And the chair of membership is Michael Weiss. Maybe Michael can raise his hand. I know he's here. He's in the front row. And COPE sets the standards, for example, the principles of transparency and best practice in scholarly publishing with OASPA and DOAJ. Membership applies those standards when reviewing membership applications. We ensure that all members are served and their interests are represented where appropriate. Our work is international and cross-disciplinary. We have an increasing number of journals and publishers from the humanities. It's not just biomedical anymore. We also have our education committee, and I'm proud to say that this flow chart is in Chinese, which is very exciting, and education is chaired by Elizabeth Mullen. Elizabeth, can you raise your hand? She's right here. And COPE's resources, which are freely available really to everyone on the website, and they include flowcharts, guidelines, discussion documents, cases, and e-learning. The goal of education is to promote integrity in research and its publication whenever they're needed, for whatever circumstance. For example, we now have over 18 flowcharts in 10 languages. And another example is that a COPE statement has been developed on inappropriate manipulation of peer review processes. And this was developed when fake peer review was identified. So we try to develop our flowcharts in reaction to issues that are coming up repeatedly in our assessment of what's happening in publication ethics. Outreach and events, which is chaired by Miriam, who you saw introducing and chairing this part of this forum. Outreach and events delivers education resources, practical support to members all over the world. This is a picture of the Beijing China seminar, which happened this past year. We have collaborative seminars. We had a publisher seminar last September. We have our Beijing China seminar. We also have forums 4 times a year, which are held virtually. We also have workshops. For example, we had one in Kobe, Japan this past March. So workshops really also occur all over. We always try to take a picture so we have a record of our people who've participated. A subcommittee that's changed a lot is the Complaints Committee, and this is chaired by Tara Hoke, who's I believe in the back. I see Tara in the back. And the significant changes have included renaming this Complaints Committee, and we're renaming it to Facilitation and Integrity Committee to shift the emphasis. And the committee will not adjudicate complaints, but instead facilitate the resolution of disputes in a manner that's consistent with COPE's principles. As you might guess, we're frequently invited to adjudicate complaints. We're often, that's putting it very mildly, we're often pressured to adjudicate complaints. We arduously resist that because we don't want to be seen as the judge of a complaint. And at this point, members complete a form to submit a concern or issue. It goes to the Facilitation and Integrity Subcommittee. It's reviewed initially by the Facilitation and Integrity Officer, who will then proceed accordingly to the flowchart that's illustrated here, and that is available on the website. This is to better serve our mission in education and support, and to make it clear that we are not the police. We are not judging what people are doing. We're trying to help them learn how they can do it better and how they can resolve some of the complaints. I did a stint on the Complaints Committee, so I truly appreciate how much people demand and want from this group. And we've given a lot of discussion to changing it. We also have the Research Committee, which is chaired by Adrian Zeiderman. And Adrian, raise your hand. There he is in the front. And we commission research that's of interest to the wider COPE community, and we would like to have an impact on the field. We try to listen to our members. For example, COPE identified particular issues from member research conducted late in 2015, and we were able to look at independent market research consultancy. We published the results in a report that's available on the trustees report and in our financial statements, with details of how COPE is or intends to respond to the concerns of our members to improve their experience, and all who are involved in publication ethics issues. There's many, many concerns of our members, and we try to be responsive to that. That's part of our job, is to be responsive to what our members would like to have. We also have the nominations subcommittee chaired by Zoe Mullen, and Zoe is back there. And as you can see from this map, our council and trustees is from a diverse area of the world. If you look at the many places where we have individuals that are members, many parts of the world, the trustees and council members are broadly placed across the globe. All are dealing with publication ethics issues in their various roles. And importantly, COPE continues to grow and expand in its mission to support editors and publishers. We are always thinking about our next geographic area that we need to expand to. And so we give that a lot of thought, and we're always thinking about the best way to take that forward. This talk would not be complete without talking about those who are often behind the scenes. And these include our COPE team, which is led by Natalie Ridgway and Linda Goff. And these are our paid staff. And also Sarah Gilmore, who does marketing and communications, Iracha Puebla, who does complaints, and Dominic Mitchell, who's the web manager, and Kathy Whiteley, who's our membership administrator. In a volunteer capacity is the chair of the finance subcommittee, Deborah Poff, and she's always looking at long-term health and sustainability of COPE. In strategy, our chair is Ginny Barber, and it's our strategy team that will focus on the COPE of tomorrow. And I want to turn this over to Chris, who will now talk about tomorrow, because that's our next part of this. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Geri. That was great. So who knew that COPE was doing so much? Was there stuff in there that you didn't know about? I hope so, because we do a terrific amount together. It is the paid team, the staff of COPE that makes this happen. But it's also the volunteers, either council members or actual members. It's us, all of us, who make all of that good stuff happen. So I feel proud. I think we all should. My job is to talk about COPE tomorrow. And I'm going to outline a couple of different themes that are significantly important for COPE, and therefore I think for all of us in the future. The new things that we're doing, though, enable collaboration with institutions and other organisations to move the things that we do upstream, earlier in researcher careers, earlier in the research process, so that we can start to try and get to grips with the causes of the problems that we're seeing and work on prevention rather than cure. That's pretty complicated, I guess. So the two themes that I'd like you to think about, and we'll come back to them in a minute, for COPE in the future are diversity and collaboration. Okay, so diversity, it means new kinds of members, perhaps institutional members, perhaps others. It means members and people on council from other parts of the world than we currently have here. And it means continuing the strong representation across the disciplines research disciplines that we represent. It also means activities in parts of the world where we haven't engaged particularly well before. I'm delighted to see the Beijing seminar earlier this year. That was fabulous. I was there. Thank you all for helping. Particularly ISMTE, who helped us to actually do it. It's another example of a collaboration. So that we can engage with people who we haven't engaged with particularly well before. So that's the diversity bit. The other bit is collaboration. And what does that really mean? Well, to start with, it means collaboration with institutions. There are two people here right now from our small pilot membership for institutional members. They would be Jane Jacobs. Hey, Jane. And Kelly Kobe. Hey, Kelly. So please, I don't know if you all spotted them, but please have a conversation with them about how you find being a member of COPE and see what they think about what institutional members could bring. That institutional membership is all about facilitating collaboration between institutional governance and research structures and journal editors and publishers. So what are we doing right now about that at COPE? Well, again, we're collaborating. So on the COPE website now is a document called the Repair Guidelines, open for collaboration. Sharon Pearson was involved with the meeting that came out of. Sharon, hey. And next week at the World Congress on Research Integrity, Liz Wager, who you heard from earlier, is leading a session around the CLUE guidelines, collaboration and liaison between universities and editors. See, I can remember the acronym. And there's a preprint on BioArchive right now that you can go read and comment upon. This is another thing that COPE has been involved with and trying to define, and Liz and the group are trying to define a set of, I guess, standards or principles that should help institutions and journals to work together better. So, did I say it enough yet? Diversity and collaboration. Today's problems, though, tell us about what COPE is tomorrow. You saw this slide earlier, or part of this slide earlier on in Liz's presentation. Where's Irene? Irene Hames, a number of years ago, did an analysis of the case archive that COPE is published on its website. So all of the cases presented and discussed at Forum are archived there. It's a fantastic resource. I think next to the flowcharts, the case resources are just a fabulous resource for everybody. Now, the work certainly is a few years old. I think it needs updating, but I think it still remains true. And the thing I'd like to focus on here, and I already explained the graph for you, that's the sort of first rule in presenting, right? Tell people what the graph says. This is a section of Irene's results, and it shows the areas of concern that are growing most rapidly through the years. So it starts with blue on the left, and then goes to purple, which is the most recent year that Irene studied in the case archive. And the areas of growth there are conflicts of interest, correction of the literature, data, misconduct and questionable behaviour, and peer review. So these are the fastest growing areas. But what's more important there is that these areas are more complex, I think. Certainly the problems that we see are more difficult to resolve. And that requires a great deal of effort and concentration and, I don't know, volunteer time to help provide advice back to the people who raise those concerns. So things are getting more complicated. But why is that? Well, research is just a job now for many of the people who contribute to it. But from speaking with members and institutions, including those in our pilot, we know that the basic training around ethics, simple things that as journal people we think are the basics like authorship and peer review, the basic training just isn't there. Another thing, research is not a national enterprise anymore. Collaborations, research collaborations that cross borders, that's where the best research is happening. So it's a global enterprise, but still, national guidelines are what govern the behaviour of the researchers doing that research. As Liz mentioned, it's very easy now to cheat. If you're going to change a figure, you can do it. You can spot that it's been done, of course, but it's so much easier than it used to be. It's also really easy to copy and paste. It has been for a long time. So it's just easier to cheat. And at the same time, what we're doing in publishing, certainly, is changing more rapidly than it has at any time that I can. I've been a publisher for about 20 years. I think the pace of change is accelerating. I'm kind of enjoying that journey, but it's absolutely and certainly presents challenges. And so this is a complex issue. Here's Ginny at the bottom again, and a bit.ly link, because the URL was far too long, to an article in The Conversation? No, an article in an Australian online blog about the wicked problem that Ginny described at the start. It's complicated. No one group alone, journal editors or publishers, is going to be able to address it. And that's another topic that we're going to address next week in Amsterdam at the World Congress on Research Integrity. So Liz's Clue present session is on the Wednesday. Please come. And Ginny's Wicked Problem session is on the Monday. Please come. So, all right, at the heart of all of this, I think, not just me that thinks this, is the incentive structure around research. And it has been said that current incentives reward gaming. I think we need to think about this quite carefully and speak about it quite carefully. Headlines like, why is so much research dodgy? Headlines about the crisis in reproducibility. I don't think those are helpful headlines. Also, I think they oversimplify, they might sell papers, but they oversimplify the complexity of the situation. I don't think that's right that we endorse that because, well, science is a messy business. What journal editors do, what we do, is what we publish is, I think, the best version of what we think is right at that moment. And that might change later. Thank you very much. Okay, and even calling it publishing what's right is just an oversimplification. So it shouldn't be a surprise when work is retracted or corrected. It shouldn't be a surprise when work didn't work out. And I think that we need a way of publishing that can cope with the inherent sort of ambiguity and messiness that is in that situation. So, we need a culture of integrity, of responsibility for the integrity of the literature, and it's not just the job of publishers. Thank you very much, Ginny Barber, for that comment made at a COPE seminar in Japan a couple of years ago. I think COPE's mission, our mission, is to somehow manage the uncertainty that's present in doing and publishing research, whether that's through corrections and retractions, or whether it's through education and support, or whether it's by posing interesting questions and discussing them in white papers to sort of crystallize a debate. The big question, though, I think, is how we create that culture that encourages integrity in research and its publication, and how we do that. What COPE's role is there? Because it isn't just the role of the editor alone. We've all got to be part of this. So there you go, back to the two themes, diversity and collaboration. So we need to do this together. Cultural change like we're talking about here is very hard. It is, by definition, a wicked problem. One party alone is not going to be able to do it. And that's why we're opening up membership via a pilot to institutions. And that's why we're bringing in council members and members from different disciplines and different geographies. And that's why I will close before we go to questions by saying that this is a road that we have to travel together. Yeah, we, the people in this room, representing the journal and editorial and publishing communities, but we, the bigger we. That includes institutions, probably funders, and people we haven't even thought of yet. So please, spread the word about this being something that we have to do together. Thank you very much.